Chapter 1249. Creak. The door opened from the inside out. A person who looked like the leader of the guards walked out. When he saw Chu Lingfeng, who was about to knock on the door, he was stunned for a moment, then he sneered. "Good. You idiot, how dare you come back? Do you know what you've done to Miss Yenner?" As he spoke, he raised his head and said to the surrounding family who guards, "Receive second master's orders, capture this idiot and make him kowtow here. Kowtow until the smell on Miss Yenner's body disappears." Hu Yenner ran back, crying bitterly. She was the apple of the second elder's eye. Now that they saw her being wronged, regardless of whether Chu Lingfeng was the culprit or not, he would definitely become the target of the second elder's eye. What's more, from Hu Yenner's sobbing, the second elder's people could tell that Chu Lingfeng was the one who had caused trouble first, and then this scene had happened. No matter what the reason for the smell on Hu Yenner's body was, the culprit must be Chu Lingfeng. If he didn't resist, perhaps nothing would have happened. Thinking of this, Hu Yenner's father, Hu Yaogua, was furious. He wanted to capture Chu Lingfeng and punish him, so that Hu Yenner could vent her anger. The group of people still didn't know what happened next at the city gate, so naturally, they didn't know that Chu Lingfeng had a new identity, which was that he was now the protector of the imperial sect. The leader of the guards had received Hu Yaogua's order to go to the city gate and bring Chu Lingfeng back for punishment. Now that he was standing outside Family Hu's gate, how could he be courteous to him? The guards who were guarding the gate were originally mocking Chu Lingfeng, but when they heard the leader's order, they immediately pounced on Chu Lingfeng with joy. Being able to make a move on a member of the direct bloodline was something worth bragging about. A group of people rushed towards Chu Lingfeng. Luo Qingtong watched from the side with a sneer. "Break their legs," she said coldly to Chu Lingfeng. This big blockhead was really stupid to the extreme. The second elder's people were clearly using Yin Yang's matter to restrain him, to deal with him, to make him obediently listen to their words and be tortured by them. If Luo Qingtong's guess was correct, that bloodline had no intention of letting Chu Lingfeng meet the head of Family Hu Zhongtian. Only Chu Lingfeng, who had a simple and honest personality, didn't know what was going on. He thought that as long as he listened to them, he would be able to see Hu Zhongtian and ask him about Yin Yang. Luo Qingtong never liked to talk nonsense with others. Since the second elder's people did not want Chu Lingfeng to see Hu Zhongtian, then she would bring him along and fight her way there. He wanted to see what kind of attitude that Hu Zhongtian had towards Yin Yang and her son. Yes. Hearing Luo Qingtong's words, Chu Lingfeng subconsciously released the energy around him and sent the guards who were pouncing on him flying. His strength was at the lower level of the martial grandmaster realm. Coupled with his special body constitution, Chu Lingfeng's combat strength was even comparable to that of a peak martial grandmaster realm expert. Under such circumstances, these martial emperor guards couldn't even touch Chu Lingfeng's body. They were sent flying and fell to the ground, vomiting blood. Chapter 1250. He didn't expect that Chu Lingfeng, who had always allowed himself to be beaten and scolded, would actually dare to resist. The guard leader's expression froze and he shouted angrily, "Don't you want your slut mother to return to the Family Hu? Why aren't you surrendering now? Otherwise, I will immediately report to Second Master and make sure that you and your mother will never be able to return to the Family Hu. Let her die alone and miserably outside." He shouted angrily and used these words to threaten Chu Lingfeng. "My mother is not a slut." Chu Lingfeng had endured for a long time. He was stupid, but it didn't mean that he didn't know that slut and slut were words used to scold people. But for his mother, in order to fulfill her wish of so many years, in order to let her return to the Family Hu, Chu Lingfeng had endured all of these. But now his master was here. His master didn't want him to endure anymore, so he couldn't endure anymore. He believed that his master would definitely be able to help him see his grandfather. "Your mother is a slut. She will be a slut for her entire life." The guard leader thought that after provoking Chu Lingfeng, he wouldn't dare to make a move, so he became even more aggressive. "Not only will your mother be a slut for her entire life, but you will also be a slut. A slut born from a slut. You and your mother will forever be the disgrace of the Family Hu. Hurry up and kneel down and beg for forgiveness, otherwise..." Before he could finish speaking, a boom sound was heard. A strong force suddenly flew out from behind Chu Lingfeng and landed on his body. In an instant the guard leader screamed loudly and miserably. Both of his legs were directly broken by the force of the attack. Those white bones that were tinged with blood protruded from the places where his legs were broken. However, those blood-red bones didn't protrude horizontally like a normal person's broken legs. Instead they stood upright. Those sharp broken parts ruthlessly stabbed into the guard leader's thigh, causing his screams to become even more shrill. "Big brother, why are you talking so much nonsense with these people?" Luo Qingtong's cold voice came from behind Chu Lingfeng. "Since they want to kneel, then let them kneel there. But there's no need for this guard leader. Let him stand here and be a good dog for the second elder of family Hu." Luo Qingtong suddenly raised her eyebrows. "Alright, I almost forgot. Dogs have 4 limbs on the ground and their backs can't be so straight." As she spoke, Luo Qingtong. Then, bang. She attacked again and directly broke the guard commander's arms. Then she broke his spine. The guard commander screamed as his body was forced to lean forward. His upper body was crouched on the ground, the broken bones in his elbows protruding horizontally, but his lower body was standing straight on the ground. The broken bones in his knees were directly inserted into the flesh of his thighs. The posture was strange and painful to the extreme. "Ah!" The guard leader screamed loudly. Luo Qingtong walked past him with an indifferent expression. "Let's go." Stepping over family Hu's guards, Luo Qingtong led Chu Lingfeng and the others straight into family Hu's main residence. The scene that just happened at the entrance had worn away all of Luo Qingtong's patience. Chapter 1251. Luo Qingtong led Chu Lingfeng and the others straight in. Meanwhile, in family Hu's main residence, the second elder was slamming the table in a fit of rage. "How preposterous! Who's the one who's secretly plotting against our family Hu? How dare they make Yenna like this?" Hu Yen-er cried incessantly. The stench on her body became stronger and stronger as time passed. At first, Hu Yen-er and the others did not notice it, but later, they realized that the stench around them was becoming more and more unbearable. Even people like them who had cultivations and weren't weak found it difficult to endure. The smell made them dizzy and nauseous. It was only under such circumstances that the second elder's people realized that something was wrong. They thought of all sorts of ways to get rid of the stench for Hu Yen-er, but none of them worked. The alchemists that the family supported were also helpless. Hu Yen-er cried until she almost fainted. If this continued, she would become a source of poisonous gas. When that happened, the people in family Hu would not be able to tolerate it. No matter how much her parents and grandfather loved her, they would have no choice but to send her out of family Hu, or even out of Wildland City. How could she accept such a fact? "Grandfather, you have to help me. It's all because of that bastard Chu Lingfeng. If it wasn't for his sudden resistance, even if someone wanted to harm me, they wouldn't have found the opportunity. You have to help me teach them a lesson." Hu Yen-er cried until she was out of breath. Not only did she blame Chu Lingfeng, she also blamed Luo Qingtong and the others, who asked him to say that she had no manners and that she was smelly. "Yen-er, don't worry. Grandfather will definitely give you an explanation for this. That bastard must be tired of living. He should have died a long time ago. He actually dared to come back and annoy us. How hateful." The second elder's expression was cold. Chu Lingfeng's existence was a thorn in his heart. Fortunately, he was an idiot. Otherwise, his great cause of getting family Hu would be hindered. In order to get family Hu, the second elder had done many things in secret. Now that he was about to succeed, how could he tolerate the existence of Chu Lingfeng, a direct descendant of the family? He could take advantage of his mistake to teach him a lesson. No one would be able to find any clues. As he thought of this, a fierce light flashed in his eyes. "Father, don't worry. I've already sent people to capture him. He's also there, he won't let him escape. Moreover, we have Yan's weakness, Yan's in our hands. Even if it is for Yan Yang, he will listen to us obediently." Hu Yaogua said with a sinister smile. "Yes." The second elder stroked his beard and smiled. "That's right. That idiot is willing to do anything for that bitch Yan Yang. He's such a filial person." As he said this, his expressions, but it's fortunate that he's like this. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to find his weakness. If he didn't care about anything and made a ruckus, he might have alarmed Hu Zhongtian. The second elder snorted coldly. He was really afraid of the shadow guards around Hu Zhongtian. He didn't dare to kill Chu Lingfeng openly, but it didn't matter. It wouldn't take long. Hu Zhongtian wouldn't be able to hold on for much longer. He would die within this period of time. When that time came, the entire family Hu would fall into the hands of his bloodline. When that time came, he could play Chu Lingfeng to death however he wanted. Chapter 1252. As second elder thought of this, the smile on his face became extremely cold. At this moment, bam! The door outside was violently pushed open by someone. A guard of the Hu clan hurriedly ran in from outside, rolling and crawling as he did so. Second elder. This is bad. Someone is trying to force their way into family who. It's that idiot. He brought his men here and wants to force his way into family whose courtyard. He's almost at the courtyard now. The family who guard was out of breath as he finished speaking. Instantly, second elder's expression changed drastically. What? He abruptly stood up and rushed outside. Huyaogua and the others looked at each other and hurriedly followed him out. They could not allow that idiot to force his way into Hu Zhongtian's courtyard. Although Hu Zhongtian was unconscious most of the time and would only wake up occasionally, the duration was extremely short, so it was basically impossible for him to know what was happening outside. But who knew? What if he woke up when that idiot barged in? In order to avoid unnecessary trouble, it was better to stop him. But that idiot was really asking for death. He actually dared to force his way into family whose courtyard. Even if they killed him, no one would dare to say anything. This was a heaven-sent opportunity. The group of people instantly dashed outside. Meanwhile, in the courtyard of family who, on the spacious main path of the courtyard, Chu Lingfeng's valiant aura, coupled with his physique that was almost impervious to injuries, was completely invincible. He was like a huge bulldozer, constantly pushing forward. All the family who guards who came forward to stop him were all sent flying by him. The attacks from those people did not cause too much damage to Chu Lingfeng's body. To Chu Lingfeng, attacks that were lower than his cultivation level were unable to leave too much of a mark on his body. His physique that was almost immortal became more and more tyrannical as he cultivated. He was almost invulnerable. It could be said that Chu Lingfeng was the best meat shield. He was able to withstand everyone's attacks by himself. Behind him, Luo Qingtong was gently waving the paper fan in her hand. Together with Yu Xihuang and Yu Xingqi, the two siblings were strolling leisurely. Following behind the Chu Lingfeng brand meat shield, they walked forward. Yu Xihuang's body released a powerful aura, faintly drawing away the attacks of the family who guards who were preparing to attack them. The group of people approached the main courtyard where Hu Zhongtian lived. Family whose guards couldn't stop them at all. At this time, those who were trying to curry favor with the second elder finally realized how terrifying Chu Lingfeng's strength was. Although his cultivation was only at the lower level of the martial ancestor realm, the strength he displayed in this chaotic battle was far greater than that. Moreover, he was still so young. With this kind of potential, he could instantly kill off all the outstanding disciples of the upper aristocratic families in Wildland City. If it weren't for the fact that he was an idiot and had taken over the family who, he would have definitely raised the family whose strength and status even further. While the guards were still in shock, a voice suddenly rang out. Bastard! What kind of place do you think family who is? Is it something you can barge in whenever you want? As he spoke, an extremely violent attack was launched towards Chu Lingfeng, who was resisting everyone's attacks and sending the people in front of him flying. Chapter 1253. Luo Qingtong had already sensed the attack as soon as the sound was heard. The bloody light in her eyes flickered. In an instant, she activated her eye technique and took a step forward. She pulled Chu Lingfeng to the side and dodged to the side. Boom! Luo Qingtong pulled Chu Lingfeng to the side to hide, and they just so happened to avoid the most powerful part of the attack. That violent attack directly blasted the place where Chu Lingfeng was just a moment ago. In an instant, a violent wave of power blasted the group of family who guards there away. A burst of mournful screams sounded, and those family who guards spat out blood and fell to the ground. A few unlucky ones who directly faced that attack were directly torn to pieces on the spot. Rumble. After the violent storm of power, a figure suddenly appeared in front of everyone. Humph. Second elder stood in front of Luo Qingtong and the others with his hands behind his back. His pair of vulture-like eyes swept over Luo Qingtong and the others, and finally fixed on Chu Lingfeng. Bitches born by bitches are so ungrateful. Chu Lingfeng, although you are the disgrace of our family who, in the end, the blood of our family who flows in your veins. You actually dared to collude with outsiders to break into our family who, and wanted to harm our family head. You really deserve to die. As soon as he opened his mouth, he put a big hat on Chu Lingfeng. Looking at him, Luo Qingtong and the others with murderous intent, he was full of murderous intent. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he could get rid of the other party, this disaster. As for Luo Qingtong, Yu Xingqi and Yu Xihuang, the latter's aura was restrained and second elder couldn't see his strength at all. Yu Xingqi was holding a little white cat and no matter how you look at it, she looked like an ignorant little girl who came from some big family. There was no need to fear her at all. As for Luo Qingtong, the second elder sneered when he saw her inconspicuous male attire and face. This group of people was also unknown as to where Chu Lingfeng got acquainted with ordinary martial artists. Was she trying to fight for justice on behalf of this idiot after finding out about him? Or perhaps they felt that this fool's identity was profitable, so they deliberately wanted to help him rise to the top so that they could obtain some benefits for themselves? No matter what the other party's motive was, they could forget about leaving this family who alive. Together with this idiot. The second elder's eyes were filled with ferocity. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes as she watched. She looked at the main courtyard that was not far away, and immediately gave a bottle of medicine to Xuanhuan. Deliver it to Hu Zhongtian, let him drink it. She transmitted her voice to Xuanhuan. The latter was already prepared to make a move, but when he heard this, he immediately calmed down the surging aura in his body. He shot a glance at Luo Qingtong, not knowing what she wanted to do. These people in front of him, he could kill them with a raise of his hand. Why would he need to go through so much trouble? But Luo Qingtong did this, she must have her reasons. Xuanhuan didn't ask any more, and his figure flashed, disappearing from where he was. With his cultivation and strength, coupled with the fact that everyone's attention was focused on the appearance of the second elder, no one noticed his disappearance at all. Even if someone happened to look over here, their attention would be blurred by the energy fluctuations left behind by Xuanhuang's departure, and they wouldn't know that there was a person missing. Chu Lingfeng. You ungrateful thing, you're worse than a dog or a pig. Chapter 1254. Seeing Luo Qingtong and the others surrounded in the middle of the courtyard, their eyes flashed and they immediately scolded Chu Lingfeng. You are the shame of our family Our family who was willing to take you in when you came back. This is already a great kindness. You actually dared to collude with outsiders and do such a disgraceful thing. You deserve to die. Following their words, Chu Lingfeng, this big fool, immediately retorted angrily, You are talking nonsense. I didn't. Chu Lingfeng's eyes were blood red. He didn't want to harm grandfather. It was clearly these people who didn't let him see grandfather. They lied to him and bullied him. Why did they say it was his fault in the end? Chu Lingfeng's personality was simple and honest. He didn't know that second elder's people were there. He just wanted to find an excuse to openly attack him. You still dare to say you didn't? You even brought people to our door to fight. Second elder sneered. That's right. You broke into our house and still have the nerve to quibble? Hu Yaogua and the others coldly said. I didn't. I am the doctor he invited. After watching Xuanhuang leave, Luo Qingtong immediately raised her eyebrows and looked at second elder and the others. My big brother and I hit it off at first sight. He saw that my medical skills were good, so he invited me to treat family whose illness. My big brother's heart is pure filial piety, but you say that he has ulterior motives. I would like to ask, stopping us from seeing family whose head, you people? As Luo Qingtong spoke, her eyes swept over second elder and the others. Then she chuckled and opened her folding fan, covering half of her face. Do you have a guilty conscience? Luo Qingtong's words made second elder and the others' expressions change. Sophistry. We have invited all the best pharmacists in the city to treat family head's illness, but none of them can do anything. A brat like you who is still wet behind the ears dares to boast shamelessly that you want to cure the patriarch? The second elder sneered and said, I think you're just trying to take advantage of the fact that you're treating a disease to do something improper. I don't want to talk too much with you. Chu Lingfeng. You trespassed into the family who without permission and tried to disturb the family head's recuperation. You've committed a heinous crime. I'll do it now. Clean up the house for our family who. As the second elder spoke, a ferocious look appeared on his face. He waved his hand and flew up like a vulture. That pair of sleeves suddenly flung. In an instant, the pair of sleeves seemed to be infused with fine iron, becoming as sharp as a sharp weapon, sweeping towards Chu Lingfeng and Luo Qingtong. He wanted to kill both of them on the spot. Master. Chu Lingfeng's expression changed when he saw the second elder's ferocious look. He didn't care about his status and prestige as an expert and directly attacked Luo Qingtong. He hurriedly stood in front of Luo Qingtong but was stopped by the latter. I'm fine. Luo Qingtong looked at the second elder's figure flying over like a vulture, secretly estimating the time. 3, 2, 1. Just as the second elder's face was filled with pride and malevolence, thinking that he could kill Luo Qingtong and Chu Lingfeng under his sleeves, a voice suddenly rang out at this moment. Stop. Stop him for me. As this voice sounded. Chapter 1255. Bang. The sleeves of the second elder's robe were cut off, revealing his bare arms. His body was forced back and fell to the ground. He immediately looked in the direction of the sound with a horrified expression. Ma. Family head. Looking at Hu Zhongtian, who was supported by others, standing at the entrance of the main courtyard, second elder's expression turned ugly. What's going on? Wasn't Hu Zhongtian so sick that he couldn't even get out of bed and was unconscious? How could he appear at the entrance of this courtyard? And looking at his appearance, did he know about Chu Lingfeng's matter? Second elder's heart jumped. Hu Zhongtian looked at Chu Lingfeng, who was standing in front of Luo Qingtong. Looking at the faintly discernible resemblance between his daughter's eyes, Hu Zhongtian's eyes turned red. With tears in his eyes, he coughed violently and asked in a trembling voice, You are Yen Yang's son? Yes. Chu Lingfeng looked at him and nodded honestly. However, he didn't move from his position in front of Luo Qingtong. He looked at the old man in front of him with vigilance. The current Chu Lingfeng didn't trust anyone in family Hu. He couldn't let his master get hurt because of him. Are you my grandfather? Chu Lingfeng looked at Hu Zhongtian. My mother misses you very much. Can you let her come back to see you? He didn't wait for Hu Zhongtian to answer and continued, If you can't, then forget it. Let us go and I won't bother you anymore. Don't hurt my friends. Chu Lingfeng was completely disappointed in family Hu. He looked at Hu Zhongtian and waited for him to say no before he turned and left. He had tried his best, but family Hu didn't want to accept him and his mother. He couldn't do anything about it. He couldn't let his mother come back and suffer this humiliation and torture. He also couldn't let Luo Qingtong worry about him. His master was already very good to him. He could not cause any more trouble for his master. Under Chu Lingfeng's serious gaze, Hu Zhongtian's eyes filled with tears. Especially what Chu Lingfeng said just now, it was completely heart-wrenching. His grandson barged in just to tell him that his daughter missed him and wanted to come back to see him. As Hu Zhongtian listened, he felt as if a knife was stabbing at his heart. Just as he was about to speak, the second elder beat him to it. Big brother. You mustn't agree. Don't forget the shame that Yen Yang brought to our family Hu. If it weren't for her indecent behavior and fooling around outside, how could the marriage alliance between family Hu and the Hua family be cancelled? Not only did he miss the opportunity to advance further, but he also offended the Hua clan and benefited the Bai clan. Yen Yang is the great sinner of our family Hu. Not to mention that the son she gave birth to is a fool. If these two people were to return to our Hu clan, who knows how many people would laugh at us. Big brother, you mustn't do this. The second elder's words instantly made Chu Lingfeng glare at him angrily. Mother and I don't want family Hu. They were already master's people. How could they return to family Hu? That's hard to say. If you come back and don't leave, what will happen to family Hu? Won't we become the butt of jokes again? The second elder sneered. He didn't believe that Hu Yinyang didn't have any thoughts about family Hu. Chapter 1256. Come back to see Hu Zhongtian? What a nice way to put it. She might not leave after seeing him for a while. After all, Hu Yinyang was the only direct descendant of family Hu could make decisions. She gave birth to another son. Even if this son was a fool. But at least he was not hopelessly stupid. No matter what, he would not allow the mother and son to come back. Big brother, please think about family Hu and our clan's future. Our Hu clan cannot become the laughingstock of others anymore. Moreover, if you let Yen Yang come back, what if the Hua family accuses you? And the Bai family will not sit by and do nothing. Hu Zhongtian's expression turned extremely ugly when he heard the second elder's words. Shut up. Hu Zhongtian almost coughed up blood. Haven't I thought about family Hu enough? You all know what happened to Yen Yang back then. She was set up by someone. That's why she lost her virginity before marriage. For the sake of family Hu and the clan's reputation, I resisted bringing her back to family Hu when she needed help the most. I allowed her to be alone outside and suffer all kinds of rumors and slanders. In the end, she had no choice but to leave Wildland City. This is my negligence as a father. Now I'm going to die. You still want to stop her and not let her come back to see me? Aren't you just afraid that she will fight with you for the position of family Hu when she comes back? Let me tell you, I won't let her take over family Hu. Not in this lifetime. Now you can get out of my sight. Get out. Hu Zhongtian roared angrily, then coughed up a large mouthful of blood. He then ordered his secret guards to chase second elder and the others out of the place. The latter and the others were still unsatisfied. Just as they were about to say something, Luo Qingtong's voice leisurely rang out. All right, I forgot to tell you. Hu Bang offended the group of aristocratic family members who rode with him. When we arrived, he was tied behind a horse and being dragged along. I advise you to go and take a look as soon as possible. Otherwise, I'm afraid he's doomed. Luo Qingtong gently fanned herself with the folding fan in her hand. She looked at the second elder and the others and chuckled. How was this possible? Little brat, stop spouting nonsense. Second elder didn't believe Luo Qingtong's words at all. That group of aristocratic children usually had a good relationship with Hu Bang, so how could they do such a thing? Moreover, Hu Bang was an extremely outstanding disciple of their branch, and it wasn't as if those people didn't know. Even if Hu Bang had said something wrong and offended the other party, they would not treat Hu Bang like this. Luo Qingtong's words were clearly meant to divert Chu Lingfeng's attention. The second elder felt disdain in his heart and was about to mock him. At this moment, a family Hu guard hurriedly ran in from outside. As he ran, he shouted anxiously, "Not good. Second elder, quickly go and take a look. The people outside have come to report, and they're all waiting anxiously outside. Young Master Bang, he's in trouble. Someone might die if he's late." That family Hu guard was drenched in sweat from running. Just now, Luo Qingtong and the others had forced their way into the family Hu. The entire family whose doors were tightly shut, and they had gone to deal with Luo Qingtong and the others. As a result, there was no one outside. Chapter 1257. After such a long time, they didn't know how Hu Bang was doing. They had only just calmed down and opened the door to family Hu when they saw the people who had come to deliver the news. What? Hearing this news, second elder and the others' faces instantly turned green. Something really happened to Hu Bang? The latter was the most outstanding disciple of their bloodline and would be groomed as the successor in the future. Second elder and the others were so anxious that they couldn't care less about Luo Qingtong and Chu Lingfeng. In any case, Hu Zhongtian didn't have much time left to live. When he died, even if he insisted on Hu Yenyang and her son coming back to inherit family Hu, they would still be able to kill them. With this thought, the group hurriedly left. Watching their departing figures, Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly, then her gaze fell on Hu Zhongtian, who was standing at the door of the courtyard. The latter was coughing violently. The bottle of medicinal liquid that Luo Qingtong gave him could only stimulate his body's potential and allow him to wake up for a short period of time and regain his mobility. It couldn't make him better. At this moment, Hu Zhongtian's body was on the verge of collapsing. He had to do his best to hold on to the shadow guard beside him so that he wouldn't fall. "Child, cough cough, come here." He waved at Chu Lingfeng. "Come here, let me take a look." Chu Lingfeng looked at Luo Qingtong with some hesitation. The latter looked at Hu Zhongtian and said, "Family Hu head, as you can see, my eldest brother is a mentally handicapped person. People outside also call him a fool. Although in my opinion he's just a little too simple and honest, and there's nothing wrong with that. But in the eyes of many people, he will indeed become the laughingstock of family Hu. There's also Yen Yang. She got pregnant before marriage and lost her virginity before marriage. She is also regarded as a disgrace by family Hu. I want to know, do you really want to acknowledge my eldest brother as your grandson?" The reason why Luo Qingtong chose to temporarily wake Hu Zhongtian up was to get an answer from him and see if he was worth saving. Idiot? Hu Zhongtian had also heard the second elder address Chu Lingfeng as such, and thought that the second elder was deliberately slandering him. From the looks of it, this matter was actually true. Looking at Chu Lingfeng, Hu Zhongtian's heart ached. His daughter for so many years had raised such a child by herself? How hard had she worked and how much had she sacrificed? Of course I'm willing. But I can't acknowledge him as family Hu. At this point, Hu Zhongtian coughed violently again. Cough cough cough. This is not a good place. After I die, all of you will leave this place far, far away. Let Yen Yang and the others never come back. As Hu Zhongtian spoke, he could not help but burst into tears. Only he knew what kind of dragon's pool and tiger's den the Hu clan was now. It was good that Yen Yang and the others were not here. Second elder's people were afraid that he would bring Chu Lingfeng and Yen Yang back and hand over the family Hu to them. Hu knew that he did not have such thoughts at all. He only hoped that his Yen Yang would lead a good life and never get involved in this muddy water again. Even if he had to pay the price of not being able to see his daughter before he died, it did not matter. Ahem. Is your mother doing well outside? Let her take good care of herself and stop worrying about this place. Chapter 1258. Hu Zhongtian's words are heartless, but Luo Qingtong can vaguely hear something from it. She squints her eyes looking at Hu Zhongtian. She suddenly says, "Is it because of the thing that my family wants?" With Yu Sihuang by her side, Luo Qingtong is not afraid that the second elder's people will eavesdrop on their conversation. Hearing Luo Qingtong's words, Hu Zhongtian suddenly choked, followed by a heart-wrenching coughing. He looks at Luo Qingtong, his face horrified to the extreme. "You. How do you know?" His eyes look back and forth between Luo Qingtong and Chu Lingfeng. He doesn't know if Luo Qingtong is close to Chu Lingfeng for any other purpose. The latter's natural disposition is simple and honest. It is not impossible for him to be used. Seeing his eyes, Luo Qingtong chuckles. She pats the folding fan in her hand and then leisurely says, "Naturally because." Her lips slightly curl. "I killed Bai Jin Tang and learned from him." She looks at Hu Zhongtian and says, "You don't have to worry that I will harm you if not for Yen Yang's request. I have no interest in your family Hu. If not for Yen Yang's request, if Luo Qingtong wants to get that thing from family Hu, there are many ways." "That's right, we are master's people." Chu Lingfeng seriously nods at this time. He doesn't know that his words have caused a blow to Hu Zhongtian. Cough cough. "Master." Hu Zhongtian's heart is sour. His grandson, Hu Zhongtian, unexpectedly recognizes a young boy as his master. Just how bitter were his and his mother's lives when they were outside. Hu Zhongtian thinks like this, his heart has an impulse to cry. It's all his fault. Blame him for not protecting his daughter and grandson. Hu Zhongtian's heart is sour. He looks at Chu Lingfeng, then looks at Luo Qingtong, nodding. "Well, let's go inside and talk." Since the other party had killed Bai Jin Tang, they were definitely enemies of the Bai clan. Since he was also the master of his grandson, Hu Zhongtian naturally had nothing to hide from him. Originally he was going to hide this matter and not let Chu Lingfeng and Yen Yang get involved, so as to avoid being unable to get away. But since Luo Qingtong had already killed Bai Jin Tang and knew about this matter, there was no room for negotiation. Since the other party had provoked the Bai clan, Yen Yang and Chu Lingfeng would naturally not be able to get away. Hu Zhongtian led Luo Qingtong and the others to the lobby of the main courtyard. The group of people took their seats in the hall. Hu Zhongtian coughed for a while, then said to Luo Qingtong with a pale face, "That thing also belongs to Yen Yang." As he spoke, he looked at Chu Lingfeng and said with difficulty, "That was sent by your father, the man who took Yen Yang's virginity. That thing was sent to the family who not long after Yen Yang left Wildland City." At first, Hu Zhongtian and the others didn't know who sent it, until they saw a letter inside. The man in the letter said that his predecessor was seriously injured, and then inexplicably plotted against, so he forced Yen Yang. He didn't expect that it would lead to such a big mistake. That thing was the compensation he gave to the family Hu. It was only then that Hu Zhongtian and the others found out that Hu Yenyang lost her virginity before marriage, and was actually forced. And it was very likely that she was framed by someone else. But because that man didn't appear, and Hu Yenyang also didn't know where she went. Chapter 1259. Hu Zhongtian's heart was filled with regret as he said this. If he had resisted the pressure from the clan and brought Hu Yenyang back to family Hu, would Hu Yenyang not have been able to withstand the rumors and slanders about him and had to leave her hometown and become homeless? Hu Zhongtian's voice was choked with sobs, but Chu Lingfeng's voice sounded at this moment. "My mother didn't leave Wildland City on her own." He looked at Hu Zhongtian and muttered, "I heard from my mother that she left because she was being hunted down. Otherwise she wouldn't have left." Chu Lingfeng's voice rang out. Instantly Hu Zhongtian's entire body froze. "What did you say?" His voice suddenly rose. "Hunted down? Cough cough cough. Oh, how is this possible? Who hunted her down? Why did he get the news that Hu Yenyang couldn't withstand the rumors and slanders about her, so she left pregnant?" Luo Qingtong also slightly narrowed her eyes at this moment. "The words in the letter sent by that person are also wrong," she said with an indifferent expression. She had only suspected it before, but after hearing Chu Lingfeng's words, she immediately confirmed it. After all, from what she had interacted with, Yen Yang's determination and decisiveness didn't seem like someone who would be defeated by a few words of slanders. Moreover, she was pregnant with Chu Lingfeng at that time. For Chu Lingfeng, she had endured in such a difficult place like the Blackfield subcity of Eastern Fence Country. It didn't make sense for her to leave Wildland City and travel to such a dangerous place like the far west wilderness with such a big belly and disregard the safety of her unborn child. The only possibility was that someone forced her to leave. If it was a hunt, then there was no mistake. Furthermore, the few sentences in the letter that Hu Zhongtian had just mentioned, Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. That person should be sorry to Yen Yang. Why would he send something to family Hu? He even said that it was compensation for family Hu? Why didn't he mention Yen Yang at all? Moreover, what did he mean by causing a big mistake? More importantly, if he wanted to compensate Yen Yang, if he knew that she was pregnant and left, how could he not search for her whereabouts? No matter what, he should have appeared in Family Who and asked about Yen Yang's whereabouts. Unless he doesn't know. The moment Luo Qingtong said that, Hu Zhongtian stood up abruptly. Then he coughed violently and coughed up blood. Do you mean that someone hid the news about Yen Yang and her pregnancy from him? Not necessarily. The bloody light in Luo Qingtong's eyes flickered. If I were that person, I wouldn't hide this matter. After all, everyone in your savage city should know about this. I suspect, that person, told him, Yen Yang's to be killed. And the child with her. If that was the case, it would explain why the man had sent compensation to the Hu family. He was afraid that he felt guilty for killing Yen Yang. What? Oh, who exactly? Who killed to kill to him? Hu Zhongtian's eyes reddened. Luo Qingtong's words made him realize something. He was afraid that the person behind the scenes was the one who wanted to kill Yen Yang. He just didn't know who that person was. Why did he want to kill Yen Yang? Of course, it's the person who benefited the most from Yen Yang's accident. He must be close to Yen Yang to make that man believe what he said. Moreover, Luo Qingtong's smile turned cold. Chapter 1260. Otherwise, she would not know so much about the man who had taken Yen Yang's virginity. She did not know who it was. How could he be so scheming? Interesting. Yen Yang was not a stupid person. Or could it be that Yen Yang was actually a naive girl who could be bullied by anyone before she met with this great change? However, Family Whose matter had implicated so many things. It even involved Yen Yang's past more than 10 years ago. Luo Qingtong felt that she had to tell Yen Yang about this matter. She had to come back and resolve this matter properly. After all, she was a member of the Evil Eye. She could not allow others to bully her without retaliating, right? It was fine if she did not know about this before. But now that she knew about it, she should repay kindness with kindness and take revenge if there was hatred. After Luo Qingtong's voice rang out, Hu Zhongtian gritted his teeth and spoke abruptly. Bai Feng. It's her. It must be her. At this point, Hu Zhongtian seemed to have thought of something. Suddenly he spat out a mouthful of blood. He said hatefully, I was wondering why the Bai family was so sure that the thing was in Family Whose possession. Bai Feng. It must be her. She saw this thing back then, but she did not know what it was. This time, when the news about the Holy King's tomb came out, she remembered that the thing that Family Who had obtained was very similar to the cover of the map of the Holy King's tomb that the Ouyang family had announced. That's why the Bai family forced me to give them that thing. At this point, Hu Zhongtian suddenly burst into tears. This woman caused my daughter to suffer so much. As Hu Zhongtian spoke, he gritted his teeth so hard that they creaked. Back then, the Bai family was just a small family in the wild city. They were not remarkable at all. Bai Feng and Yen Yang were close. After Yen Yang lost her virginity, she even went to the Hua family to apologize to Yen Yang. She even knelt down and refused to get up. I was even touched by her pleading for Family Hu. Even after the marriage between the Bai and Hua families, she married Hua Ting, Yen Yang's fiancé, the young master of the Hua family. I did not think much of it. From the looks of it now, she's simply using Yen Yang as a stepping stone to reach the heavens in a single bound. Not only did she become the young mistress of the Hua clan, but she also made the Bai clan a middle-class clan in Wildland City. Now, she's forcing me to deal with her because of the Sage King's tomb. This woman, why is she so scheming? Why is she so vicious? When Hu Zhongtian said this, he could not help but spit out another mouthful of blood. If it wasn't for Yen Yang's help and Family Whose protection, the Bai family would have been swallowed up by the other families in Wild City. I didn't expect her to repay us like this. As Hu Zhongtian spoke, he suddenly fainted from anger. Master. Seeing him fall, Chu Lingfeng immediately panicked and hurriedly looked at Luo Qingtong. When the latter saw that Hu Zhongtian had fainted, he furrowed his brows and appeared in front of him in a flash. He raised his hand and sent a few streams of energy into Hu Zhongtian's body. Then he took out a bottle of medicinal liquid and fed it to Hu Zhongtian. After a while, Hu Zhongtian slowly regained consciousness. Luo Qingtong looked at him and said, I'm also here this time because of the Sage King's tomb. Since Family Whose item is related to the Sage King's tomb, and it's very likely to be the map of the Sage King's tomb, then I'll take it. Chapter 1261. Luo Qingtong looks at Hu Zhongtian. She is determined to get the map of the Saint King's tomb. But since the other party is Yen Yang's father, Chu Lingfeng's grandfather, then she will give him a fair chance to trade. If the other party agrees, then everyone will be happy. If not, Luo Qingtong naturally has a way to get that thing. But then she will not be so easy to talk to. Even if Chu Lingfeng and Yen Yang kneel and beg, she will not help them. Cough cough. I know my own illness, so don't bother. Hu Zhongqian did not take Luo Qingtong's words to heart. The youth is so young, how good can his medical skills be? He has seen all the alchemists in Wildland City and even other places, but it is useless. So there is no need to trouble the other party. He smiles bitterly. That thing, if you want it, then take it. Originally that person gave it to Yen Yang. Also, thank you for taking care of Yen Yang and her son. Hu Zhongqian's words are very clear. He does not need Luo Qingtong to treat his illness, nor does he need anything else. As long as Luo Qingtong takes care of Yen Yang and her son, it is enough. What's more, the other party took care of Yen Yang and the rest before. That thing can be considered as a thank you gift. As Hu Zhongqian speaks, he struggles to support his body and is about to take that thing to Luo Qingtong. He knows his own body, he can't hold on for much longer. Instead of waiting for him to die and let the second elder's people get it, it will benefit the Bai family. Why not give it to the youth? Hu Zhongqian's words make Luo Qingtong raise her eyebrows. She also does not refute Hu Zhongqian's words. Whether he can be cured or not, the other party will know in the future. Luo Qingtong's face is indifferent. Okay, then it's settled. Wait until you are better, then give it to me. Although Luo Qingtong usually receives a deposit first, but the other party is now sick, she is not in a hurry. Anyway, she is not afraid that Hu Zhongqian will go back on his words. His life was in her hands. Since she was able to save Hu Zhongqian, she was naturally able to kill him silently. However, with Yen Yang and Chu Lingfeng present, the other party may not necessarily do such a thing. Luo Qingtong got up and walked outside. Arrange a side courtyard for me. It must be quiet enough and not be disturbed in any way. Also, your illness is a little tricky. Although it's called an illness, it's actually because you were seriously injured in the past. Your ribs are broken in your chest and lungs. In the end, someone fed you a medicine that strongly stimulated the growth of your flesh and bones, causing your flesh and bones to grow together. On the surface it looks like it has healed, but in reality, it has planted a disaster. The broken bones in your body have now grown so large that they are filling up your chest and lungs. It's not that easy to get rid of it. You should take care of your body first. Otherwise, I'm afraid you'll die the moment I start. Luo Qingtong said. She raised her hand and threw a prescription to Chu Lingfeng. Follow this prescription and prepare the medicine for your grandfather. Soak him in it 3 times a day. When the time comes, I will naturally treat him. Chu Lingfeng quickly took it. Hu Zhongqian originally wanted to say something, but hearing Luo Qingtong's words, his face was surprised and happy. The other party can actually say that he was injured in the past. Could it be this time? You really can be saved? Hu Zhongqian also did not know how he got sick. If it's really like what Luo Qingtong said, he must investigate to see who stole his medicine when he was injured. Hu Zhongqian's heart was pleasantly surprised, but Luo Qingtong has already left his room. Luo Qingtong just came out of the room and saw xuanhuan confronting a group of people. Chapter 1262. Why are you guys here? Luo Qingtong looks at the group of people who appeared in front of her. Demonic Doctor Bei Qing and the others are confronting xuanhuan. When they see Luo Qingtong come out, they immediately walk towards her. Xuanhuan follows behind them with an unhappy face. His heart is indescribably gloomy. These people really came at the wrong time. He finally got the chance to get along well with Luo Qingtong and these people appear. He also doesn't know where Yi Qianxian is. If he knows that he is here with Luo Qingtong, he will definitely come running over. At that time, his chance to get along well with Luo Qingtong will be ruined. Xuanhuan is thinking about this. Bei Qing and the others have already walked in front of Luo Qingtong. Cough. Demonic Doctor, we are here to give you a gift under the orders of our master. Bei Qing's face is conflicted. As she speaks, she raises her hand and takes out something that she and the others brought. Looking at the thing that they take out, Luo Qingtong discovers that they actually brought a small bamboo basket. The small bamboo basket is covered with a small piece of black cloth. Luo Qingtong looks at them lift the black cloth on the bamboo basket. Then she looks at the thing in the bamboo basket and stares blankly. This. Did Yi Qianxian ask you to give it to me? Luo Qingtong looks at the little fellow who is lying in the bamboo basket curled up into a ball. Seems to be asleep. It had light silver soft fur, a red nose and 2 small ears that were twitching. Its tiny body was encircled in a circle. It looks like a round little meatball. This appearance is so cute. Luo Qingtong looks at the little fellow lying in the bamboo basket in a daze. This is a young fox? Yi Qianxian actually sent such a cute little fox to me? Just as Luo Qingtong was speaking, she saw that the little fox seemed to be unable to sleep well. It suddenly flipped over and then used its pair of little claws to pull at its ears. With this pull, the little fellow wakes up. Then Luo Qingtong looks at it squatting there and looking at its two small claws with disdain. Luo Qingtong doesn't know how to describe that appearance. It was as if it wasn't looking at its two little claws, but at its sworn enemy. In fact, it is so. Yi Qianxian's heart is unspeakably gloomy. He looked at the two pink and tender paws in front of him that had no lethality and could only make people bleed. Then he thought of his stupid and cute action that he couldn't control his animal instincts. He suddenly had the urge to chop off these two paws. Yi Qianxian didn't think that when the heavenly demon fox went berserk, he couldn't completely avoid the attack before it died. The consequences are actually so serious. That is the demon fox curse that used up all of the heavenly demon fox's blood essence. It turned Yi Qianxian into this little fox appearance. Not only is he unable to use his strength as a human, but he also has the habits of a little fox. Yi Qianxian thought of his action of pulling at its ears and felt a burst of shame. He doesn't want to admit that it was him who did it. Just when Yi Qianxian is feeling gloomy, Luo Qingtong looks at it squatting on the ground and finds it funny. She raises her hand and pokes its little ears. Chapter 1263. Tell your master that I like his gift very much. Luo Qingtong looked at the little fellow in front of her and was extremely happy, because she found that this little fox's eyes were exactly the same as Yi Qianxian's. That kind of cold gaze, as if it was looking down on the world with disdain and countless swords, made Luo Qingtong fall in love with this little fellow at first sight. Was this the reason why Yi Qianxian gave her this little fox? To let this little fox, who had the same eyes as him, accompany her in his place? Luo Qingtong liked Yi Qianxian's way of expressing his feelings. What's more, the little fox's actions were extremely similar to Yi Qianxian's when he was angry. She didn't know how much time and effort that man spent to find and train such a little fox for her. Luo Qingtong smiled and picked up the little fellow. Then she saw the ring on its little paw and was even more certain of her guess. I didn't expect him to give this ring to you. Sure enough, he had the intention of letting you accompany me. Luo Qingtong said and kissed the little fox's little face. In an instant, Yi Qianming's expression stiffened. He was about to resist, but he also paused. Luo Qingtong was naturally talking about the Shifang dragon ring. Yi Qianming looked at the ring on his paw and felt conflicted. Between being found out by Luo Qingtong and losing face, or being kept as a pet, he decisively chose the latter. He obediently let Luo Qingtong hold him, but his heart was indescribably gloomy. This was not the same as when his soul was kept captive by Luo Qingtong. At that time, although Yi Qianming could vaguely feel what Luo Qingtong did to him and later regain the memories of his soul, he didn't have a deep understanding of his original body. Now he was being kept as a pet by his own woman. Thinking of this, Yi Qianming gnashed his teeth in anger. It glanced at Bei Qing and the others with an indescribably cold gaze. However, he looked too adorable and was not lethal at all. Bei Qing and the others did not understand what he was trying to say at all. Bei Qing heaved a sigh of relief when she saw her mistress being held in Luo Qingtong's arms obediently. When they found out that Yi Qianming had been cursed by the demon fox blood curse and turned into a fox cub, they were shocked and panicked. Fortunately, after Elder Yu saw it, he told them not to worry. He said that Yi Qianming's physique was special and the demon fox blood curse had no effect on him. It was only because he had taken the heavenly demon fox's blood essence to prolong his life. Coupled with the demon fox blood curse, such signs had appeared. Once Yi Qianming completely dissolved the sky demon fox's blood essence in his body, he would change back. Hearing Elder Yu's words, Bei Qing and Feng Yu finally felt relieved. However, how to deal with Yi Qianming became a problem. Now that their mistress had become like this, they couldn't leave her alone. And they also had their own things to do. After thinking about it, they decided to send Yi Qianming to Luo Qingtong. Their mistress must be very happy to stay with the evil doctor. Bei Qing and the others were thinking about this happily. It was also because Feng Yu went to deal with the matters of the Star Alliance. Otherwise she would have killed Bei Qing and the others in minutes. Their mistress liked the evil doctor. It was true that she loved the evil doctor. Chapter 1264. He was so stupid. Yu Lao, who had instigated Bei Qing and the others to do this, was laughing to death. It was rare to be able to mess with this brat Yi. It was really fun. Yi Qianming was handed over to Luo Qingtong. No matter how dense Bei Qing and the others were, they knew that their master didn't want to be surrounded by people when she interacted with Luo Qingtong like this. Whoever was watching would be unlucky. Therefore, the group of people left without a trace. Only Yi Qianming was left in Luo Qingtong's arms with a depressed expression. Xuanhuan came over at this time. I didn't expect Yi Qianming to have such romantic thoughts, he said sourly. In his heart, he scolded the other party for being too treacherous. He actually thought of using this trick to show his existence in front of Luo Qingtong. Even though he wasn't here, he still dominated Luo Qingtong. Was there any justice left? This little silver fox doesn't look very good. He circled around Yi Qianming and sized up its furry and meaty body with a look of disdain. If you like, I can catch a bunch for you. I guarantee that they will only be more round and cuter than this one and have shiny fur. As Xuanhuan spoke, he raised his hand and poked Yi Qianren. The latter was furious. Yi Qianxian's attention was focused on Luo Qingtong and Bei Qing. He didn't notice Xuanhuan next to him. Now that he saw the other party, the latter actually dared to poke him. He immediately raised his hand and waved his claws. Xuanhuan didn't care at first, but he didn't expect the other party's claws to be so sharp. It was obviously a little fox that had just been weaned, but with a swipe of its claws, it scratched a piece of skin on his hand. One must know that with Xuanhuan's strength, not just anyone can injure him. Not to mention the little silver fox that Yi Qianxian transformed into. From its appearance, it didn't look strange at all. It looked like a cute pet. This little fox is rather peculiar. Xuanhuan was surprised. He raised his hand to grab Yi Qianxian. The latter's gaze was cold, and the two meatballs, pink and tender little claws, instantly reached out with sharp claws. At this time, Luo Qingtong raised her hand to stop Xuanhuan. It's mine. Luo Qingtong looked at him with a faint smile. Don't touch it. It would have been fine if Yi Qianxian had sent an ordinary fox, but it just had to be a little fox that looked so much like him. Luo Qingtong was not the kind of woman who would be confused by the cute appearance of small animals. However, this little fox's eyes were exactly the same as Yi Qianxian's. She liked it very much. Not to mention the fact that she was wearing Yi Qianxian's 10-sided dragon ring on her claws, which showed how much Yi Qianxian valued the little fox. Luo Qingtong naturally couldn't let it be bullied by Xuanhuan. Hearing Luo Qingtong's words, before Xuanhuan could open his mouth, Yi Qianxian's heart was already filled with joy when Luo Qingtong said, "It's mine." His consciousness hadn't reacted yet, but this body that had inherited the nature and instincts of a young fox had already automatically jumped up, moved in front of Luo Qingtong and gently licked her. From time to time, it would make a low, coquettish sound, and then use its small round head to rub Luo Qingtong's face. Chapter 1265. Yi Qianxian froze on Luo Qingtong's shoulder like a bolt from the blue. His heart felt as if it had been split into 7 or 8 pieces. He didn't dare to look at what he had just done. He was a dignified, revered underworld. This damn demon fox blood curse. Yi Qianxian's heart felt as if there was nothing left to live for. Luo Qingtong looked at its face that changed from joy to shock, and then to a dull expression. It was so cute that her face was about to bleed. Especially when the other party had a pair of eyes that were exactly the same as Yi Qianxian's, she had an inexplicable feeling as if Yi Qianxian was in a daze in front of her. Luo Qingtong was overjoyed. She directly picked it up and kissed the little fox's pink nose. Then she smiled and greeted Xuanhuan. She brought the little fellow back to the main courtyard that the shadow guards of the family who had prepared for her. Xuanhuan looked at Luo Qingtong with a depressed expression as she left with the little fox. Then he looked at Xianxia beside him and asked, "Am I not handsome?" He raised his hand and stroked the mole at the corner of his eye. His charming eyes had an indescribable evil charm. It was very enchanting. Handsome. Even if Xianxia had always taken it as his duty to trick his own brother. He couldn't go against his conscience and say that he wasn't handsome. This was simply an evildoer to the bone. Am I not powerful? Xuanhuan shook off the aura around his body. Powerful. The master of the Southern Domain's imperial sect, the future overlord of the 3 islands and 7 lands, and Xuanhuan had cured the hidden heart disease in his body. In the future his strength would soar greatly. How could he not be powerful? If he wasn't powerful, he would have been swallowed up by others. Am I not powerful enough? Xuanhuan asked again. Powerful. The current True Spill continent was divided into the north, south, east, and west regions. Xuanhuan ruled the Southern Domain's strongest 3 islands and 7 lands. In the entire Southern Domain, most of the people had to look at his face. How could he not be powerful? Then why doesn't Tong like me? Xuanhuan's face was also depressed. He was handsome and strong. Men and women, young and old alike, were all attracted to him. Why was Luo Qingtong so indifferent to him? If Luo Qingtong hadn't personally admitted that Yi Qianxian was different from him, he would have thought that she wouldn't fall in love with any man. To be honest, Luo Qingtong was definitely the most extraordinary woman he had ever seen. The girl was evil and unbridled, living more recklessly than anyone else in this world. That kind of recklessness was not the kind that had no confidence and only knew how to rely on the power and strength behind one's back, as well as one's appearance, recklessly and unreasonably causing trouble. Instead, it was a feeling that came from the pinnacle of the world. This feeling was very strong. In fact, Xuanhuan had never sensed any timidity or inferiority from Luo Qingtong when she was alone with him. Clearly, the other party's strength was not on the same level as his. However, from Luo Qingtong, Xuanhuan could see that the other party's strength was on par with his. She even had an aura that was on the same level as him. This was the reason why Xuanhuan looked at Luo Qingtong in a different light. Otherwise, with his identity as the overlord of the southern domain, even if he was grateful to Luo Qingtong for saving his life, and had a good impression of her, he wouldn't have repeatedly backed down in front of her and kept degrading himself. It was because the feeling that Luo Qingtong gave him was very different. Chapter 1266. He believed that Yi Qianxian should also be attracted by Luo Qingtong's unique temperament. It was just that the other party was one step ahead of him and got to know Luo Qingtong first, so now he had the upper hand in everything. Thinking of this, Xuanhuang's heart suddenly felt depressed. At this time, Xingqi's voice rang in his ears. "Brother, do you really want to hear the truth?" Xingqi looked at him with a serious face. Xuanhuang inexplicably had a bad feeling. He always felt that his sister wouldn't say anything good. Sure enough, the next second Xingqi's voice rang. "That's probably because other than your handsome face, Blackfield's Mingzun is better than you in every other aspect, right? If I were your sister, I wouldn't want you either." "Save me. Kill your sister." "Xingqi, come here." Luo Qingtong didn't know what happened between Xuanhuang and his sister at all. She was preparing to bathe the little silver fox that Yi Qianming had transformed into. Before the little fox, Luo Qingtong had never tried to raise a pet. Of course, contracted beasts didn't count. The little fox was her first real pet and it was given to her by Yi Qianming. Luo Qingtong was prepared to treat it well and fulfill the obligations of a master. "Come here, little guy." Luo Qingtong patiently coaxed the little guy opposite her. When she put it down, the little guy ran into the quilt and hid. Luo Qingtong looked at his head coming out of the quilt with a vigilant and alert look. She suddenly found it funny. Who was the one who came over and acted spoiled with her? This little guy changed his face faster than flipping a book. And this look was very similar to when she teased little Mingzun. The latter was vigilant and alert, afraid of being tricked again. Luo Qingtong held back her laughter and continued to coax the other party softly. "Umph." Yi Qianming gritted his teeth in frustration as he watched her teasing him in a soft voice. This woman was he really wanted to rush out and press this woman under his body to teach her a good lesson. However, he looked at his short stature, which was soft and cute and had no lethality. If he rushed out, that woman would only think that he was throwing himself into her arms. He immediately turned his head gloomily and turned around, leaving his but for Luo Qingtong to see. Even if he was beaten to death, he would never allow this woman to raise him as a pet. Otherwise, if the fact that he had once turned into a little fox was exposed, how could he raise his head in front of her? This woman was already arrogant enough in front of him. He couldn't let her get hold of his weakness and take a mile after taking an inch. Yi Qianming thought so and was determined not to respond to Luo Qingtong's call. Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows when she realized that she couldn't call it out. Suddenly, she seemed to have thought of something and smiled. "Yeah." Luo Qingtong suddenly walked out of the door and Yi Qianming's ears perked up. Had this woman given up? That's good. Bei Qing and those bastards, when I go back I'll teach them a lesson. Yi Qianming's face was cold and his eyes that seemed to be filled with swords were cold. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's footsteps sounded again. Then, a grasshopper that was tied up with a rope was placed in front of Yi Qianming. "Come here." Luo Qingtong pulled the rope that tied the grasshopper and then the grasshopper was forced to jump towards Luo Qingtong. Chapter 1267. Yi Qianming looked at the grasshopper bouncing towards Luo Qingtong and snorted. He turned his head away, not wanting to bother with Luo Qingtong. However, Before he could turn his head, the little fox cub jumped up and chased after the grasshopper, throwing itself into Luo Qingtong's arms. Ah, good boy. Luo Qingtong hugged the little fox that pounced over and smiled so widely that one could not see her eyes. Her eyes were curved as she lowered her head and kissed the little fox's nose several times. She didn't know that the fox's face under the fluffy fur had turned completely black. Yi Qianming gritted his teeth and looked at the little grasshopper that was struggling under his claws. He was so angry that he tore it into pieces. He forgot about his cub's instincts. This damn demon fox's blood curse. Yi Qianming was held tightly in Luo Qingtong's arms. He couldn't even struggle and his heart was indescribably depressed. Luo Qingtong ordered the servants in the side courtyard to boil some hot water for her. The people in the main courtyard were all loyal to Hu Zhongtian. Luo Qingtong wasn't afraid that they would neglect her. The servants responded and prepared to leave. At this moment, one of them who seemed to be the leader hesitated and said, "Does young master want to take a bath? If that's the case, there is a good hot spring in the main courtyard. It flows from the ground. If young master wants to take a bath, you can go there to relieve your tiredness." These servants were all ordered by Hu Zhongtian to treat Luo Qingtong as if she was a guest at home. Naturally, they didn't dare to neglect her. Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows when she heard that. She said to them with interest, "All right, lead the way." If there was a hot spring to bathe in, Luo Qingtong was naturally willing to enjoy it. What's more, the little guy in her arms was so naughty. Luo Qingtong thought about it. If she bathed it, she would inevitably get wet. She might as well bathe it together. Luo Qingtong thought about it and immediately brought Yi Qianming to the hot spring. Looking at the hot spring that was surrounded by a small courtyard, Luo Qingtong dismissed the servants who came to lead the way. She thought about it and set up an array. Then she took off her outer clothes and entered the hot spring. Yi Qianming didn't struggle. He stared blankly at Luo Qingtong's body that was only wearing thin clothes. The young girl's exquisite figure was wrapped in her undergarments, making her appear very graceful and charming. What was worse was that as Luo Qingtong stepped into the hot spring, the girl's figure was half hidden and half exposed in the thin clothes. Yi Qianming was stunned, especially when Luo Qingtong entered the hot spring. She stretched herself comfortably and then leaned against the shore of the hot spring with a relaxed and languid expression. She looked like a fairy that fell into the room from the sky and also like a beautiful demon that climbed out of the water. She was naturally bewitching, full of vitality and fragrance. Luo Qingtong's enchanting and charming face and her charm that could cause the downfall of a country were intertwined, forming a strange picture that could attract people to commit a crime. She was so beautiful and enchanting that it couldn't be imagined. This was a completely different kind of charm from her usual evil aura. The little fellow's emotions seemed to be particularly human-like. His actions were like that of a person who was sulking. Luo Qingtong thought about the scene where she used the grasshopper to tease the silver fox. She felt a burst of laughter in her heart. Could it be that it was upset because it couldn't hold on to its little resistance because of that? Chapter 1269. For some reason, Luo Qingtong just wanted to tease this little fox. Perhaps it was because the latter had a pair of eyes that were similar to Yi Qianxian's, so she couldn't help but love the house and its crow. Or perhaps it was because the other party didn't behave like an ordinary little fox and was especially intelligent. Otherwise, Luo Qingtong might not have had the patience and thought to do so. As Luo Qingtong thought of this, her eyes suddenly turned slightly and she had a good idea. She looked at the little fox who was still sulking on the bedding, got up with a smile, put on an outer robe and walked out. After a while, she came back with a bowl in her arms. A faintly discernible fragrance wafted from her bowl. "Come here, little guy, eat chicken." Luo Qingtong took out a piece of chicken that had been fried until it was golden and soft from the bowl and waved it in front of Yi Qianxian. The latter was originally unwilling to pay attention to her. He was still deeply immersed in the shadow of catching a grasshopper just now, unable to extricate himself. However, the fox cub in his body couldn't resist the temptation of that piece of chicken. Yi Qianxian's two little fox ears kept trembling. He tried his best to control his body and not look at that piece of chicken. However, that fragrance kept drifting into his nose. That tempting fragrance made Yi Qianxian's fox cub body completely unable to suppress its instincts. Ing. The moment Luo Qingtong put the piece of chicken in front of him, Yi Qianxian's fox cub body pounced over, wanting to grab that piece of chicken. However, Luo Qingtong's eyes were sharp and her hands were nimble, and she took that piece of chicken away. Yi Qianxian immediately pounced into the soft brocade quilt, and his silver body sank into the quilt softly. After a while he was finally picked up by Luo Qingtong. Haha. Luo Qingtong looked at its small appearance of saying one thing and thinking another. It was so cute. She picked up the silver fox and placed the piece of chicken in front of him. She smiled and said, "Raise your paw." As she spoke, she reached out a hand to him, indicating for him to place his little paw on her palm. Yi Qianxian looked at Luo Qingtong's outstretched hand and his furry little fox face instantly turned green and black. As a dignified underworld venerable, he would never do such a thing. Before he could finish his thoughts, his body that was completely controlled by the nature and instincts of a young fox immediately placed his two little paws on Luo Qingtong's palm. Yi Qianxian was on the verge of a mental breakdown. Looking at his disappointing body, he had the urge to go back in time, reverse the universe and go back to the time when he hunted the heavenly demon fox and stop all of this. He really couldn't watch anymore. Yi Qianxian gritted his teeth in his heart. Luo Qingtong, on the other hand, was indescribably happy. She picked up the incomparably obedient and cute little fox in front of her and couldn't help but kiss its little nose. Then he held its two little paws and kissed them on each of its soft and tender paws. He smiled and said, "Good boy. Silver Baby is so smart." "Who are you calling Silver Baby? This venerable one doesn't want such a childish name." Yi Qianxian's face turned even darker. However, his body lowered its head to eat the chicken, and it was indescribably happy. From time to time, it would let out a satisfied and happy snoring sound, as if it was echoing Luo Qingtong's words. Chapter 1270. The girl and the fox continued to play for a long time. Of course, Luo Qingtong was the only one who was having fun. Yi Qianxian's face darkened as he watched his young fox body do all kinds of immoral things under the temptation of the chicken. He couldn't bear to look at it. He made up his mind that in the future, he would never reveal the fact that he had turned into a fox and was kept as a pet by Luo Qingtong for a long time. Luo Qingtong played with the silver fox for a while. She had enough of its gloomy and disgusted face. When she saw how happy the chicken was acting, she smiled and hugged it to sleep. Wild City by Family. Bai Changfeng waved away the Bai family guard who came to report. He looked at the people around him and said, "That fool from family who brought a few people and broke into family who, alarming Hu Zhongtian." At this time Hu Zhongtian has already recognized him. When Bai Changfeng said this, his face turned gloomy. This was definitely not the result the Bai family wanted to see. Hu Zhongtian was going to die soon. When the second elder of family Hu came to power, if Hu Zhongtian didn't want Hu Fei to die with him, he would have to obediently hand over the things that belonged to family Hu. However, now that Hu Zhongtian and Chu Lingfeng had acknowledged each other, there was a change in all of this. Damn it. Why didn't that Hu Yenyang die outside? Otherwise, we wouldn't have to worry so much today. She was hunted down with a child, but she was still able to escape. They had really underestimated her. Big brother, why are you in such a hurry? Family Hu has been in the palm of our hands for more than 10 years. Now, our Bai family strength is more than twice as strong as before. Family Hu is struggling at death's door. Even if Hu Zhongtian and that fool or even Hu Yenyang recognize each other, so what? Don't tell me that they're capable of overturning the universe? An elder of the Hu clan below said with a disdainful expression. He didn't care about family Hu at all. That's right. Another middle-aged man sitting to the right of Bai Changfeng also said, family Hu is nothing to be afraid of. Our Bai clan doesn't need to pay attention to them but Jin Tang and the others. Why haven't we heard from them yet? Could it be that something went wrong during the operation to capture that lightning beast? Impossible. Bai Changfeng waved his hand. The location of the lightning beast, the method to lure it here, and the various arrangements in the surroundings were all set up by that lord himself. Absolutely nothing will go wrong. I'm just worried that there might be an accident with the ripening date of the amethyst fruit, so Jin Tang and the others haven't been able to catch the thunder beast yet. That's true. The middle-aged man nodded. If that's the case, then let's wait. After all, the clear heart purple jade fruit is also a strange fruit. It's normal for there to be some sudden changes. And? Bai Changfeng nodded. Don't worry about Jin Tang and the others for now. It won't take long anyway. Moreover, that lord hasn't come to our Bai family yet. There's no hurry. What I'm worried about now is that among the people that family Hu fool brought to family Hu, there's a man called Yi Jiu who claims to have good medical skills and wants to treat Hu Zhongtian. Chapter 1271. The voice of another elder of the Bai family rang out. Family head, you're worrying too much. No one knows better than us what's wrong with Hu Zhongtian's illness. He's dead for sure this time. There's no medicine that can save him. Let that Yi Jiu save him. Let's see if he can be saved. That Bai family elder said with a mocking expression. The surrounding Bai family members also let out faint chuckles. At this moment Bai Changfeng shook his head and waved his hand. I'm not worried that Yi Jiu can save Hu Zhongtian. He naturally knew what was wrong with Hu Zhongtian's illness. After all, he was the one who personally handed the medicine to the second elder of family Hu. However, I'm worried about Hu Fei. As his voice rang out, the surrounding hall fell silent. Hu Fei, Hu Zhongtian's eldest son. He was the true young master of family Hu. If not for the fact that he was in a coma, paralyzed in bed, and had been in a vegetative state for more than 10 years, they wouldn't have dared to have any ideas about family Hu. After all, back then, Hu Fei was a rather famous genius in Savage City and even in the entire Western Wastelands. Back then, everyone agreed that if Hu Fei took over family Hu's strength would definitely double, and they might even become one of the top families. Unfortunately, Hu Fei didn't have such an opportunity. Now, he was the bargaining chip that they used to threaten Hu Zhongtian to hand over family Hu's item. If Hu Fei was really saved and awakened, then their plan would be severely hampered. After all, Hu Fei was the rightful heir of family Hu. Without this bargaining chip, Hu Zhongtian, who was being pressured by them, might not give them the item even if he chose to fight to the death. Thinking of this, the faces of the Bai family members suddenly became serious. Family head. I don't think that kid has the ability to do this, right? The Bai family elder who spoke up just now said. He didn't believe that a kid who was still wet behind the ears could do this. After all, Hu Fei had been in a coma for more than 10 years. He was no different from a living corpse. Hu Zhongtian had tried everything he could think of, but he still couldn't help him recover. How could a mere youth do it? What if he has something that can remove Hu Fei's current condition? Bai Changfeng's voice was cold. No matter what, during such a critical period, I will not allow anyone to ruin our Bai family's plans. This matter must be dealt with. Furthermore, Hu Fei's awakening was related to another matter. Bai Changfeng thought of the reason why Hu Fei was in a coma, and his face became more solemn. He waved his hand and dismissed everyone in the room. All right, I'll talk to Feng personally and see how she's going to deal with it. You guys can leave first. Yes. Hearing that he was going to look for Bai Feng, everyone in the Bai family immediately agreed. Sometimes Bai Feng's orders were even more effective than Bai Changfeng's. After all, the Bai family's rise was entirely due to Bai Feng. Not only that, but she was also the young mistress of the Hua family, a top-notch family. In the past few years, the Hua family had completely entered the category of the top families in Wildland City. Although their strength couldn't be compared to the top families in Wildland City and the Far West Wilderness, they were still above the other families in Wildland City. Chapter 1272. The group dispersed, and Bai Changfeng immediately went to look for Bai Feng. She had already received news about family Hu from the Hua family. After all, she was the one who remembered and told Bai Changfeng about that thing. Naturally, she was very concerned about family Hu's situation, especially after Chu Lingfeng appeared. I didn't expect that Hu Yinyang would still be able to save the child under such circumstances. It's a pity that she gave birth to a retard. Bai Feng snorted coldly. She was lying on her side on a low-key and luxurious chaise lounge, her 10 fingers resting on the armrest. Her fingernails were painted a bright as blood. All right, leave this matter to me. You don't have to worry about it. Hu Fei had been struggling at death's door for so many years, and it was time for him to die. As for Hu Yinyang, if she wanted to come back and seek death, Bai Feng would be happy to fulfill her wish. After all, she had been waiting for so many years, to get rid of all future troubles forever. As for Luo Qingtong and the others, Bai Feng didn't care about them at all. They were just a few clowns. How powerful could they be if they could mix with a retard like Chu Lingfeng? Bai Feng wanted to kill Hu Fei, but it was just a precaution. She didn't really think that Luo Qingtong and the others could save Hu Fei. After she sent Bai Changfeng away, she sent out a letter. Outside Wildland City, in an extremely secluded valley, a group of people received a letter from Bai Feng. The sect leader has ordered us to kill family Hu's Hu Fei. We can't let anyone find out. Do it today. A leader in a black robe who looked sinister said. Yes. The other people, who were wearing the same black robes as him and looked very evil and sinister, all agreed. As for family Luo Qingtong woke up early in the morning and was invited to Hu Zhongtian's room. Hu Zhongtian looked very excited. "Thank you for saving my life, young master." Hu Zhongtian had tried the medicinal bath that Luo Qingtong gave to Chu Lingfeng last night. When he woke up this morning he felt much more relaxed. Ever since he fell seriously ill, he had never felt this refreshed feeling again. How could he not be surprised and excited? Only now did he realize that Luo Qingtong's words about saving his life were not baseless. Luo Qingtong looked indifferent. She replied softly. "You will soak in this medicinal bath every day. When your body is almost fully recovered, I will remove the growing bone fragments in your body." Only Luo Qingtong would dare to perform this operation in this strange world. If it were anyone else, even if they could see Hu Zhongtian's condition, they wouldn't be able to save him. After all, the broken bones and flesh of the chest and lungs had grown together. Without Luo Qingtong's bloody eyes, who would dare to perform such an operation on Hu Zhongtian? Chapter 1273. Young Master. He looked at Luo Qingtong with a hesitant expression. "I wonder if young master can help again. Take a look at my son, Hu Fei." Hu Fei. Luo Qingtong looked at Hu Zhongtian and suddenly remembered that family who still had a young master, Hu Fei, who was Yan Yang's brother. She had heard people say at the city gate that he was paralyzed in bed like a cripple. If it weren't for this, the Hu clan wouldn't have fallen to such a state. After all, as long as Hu Fei was around, even if Hu Zhongtian was seriously ill, ordinary people would not dare to bully them. "Master." Chu Lingfeng called out pitifully, his eyes imploring. He was left by Luo Qingtong in the main courtyard to take care of Hu Zhongtian yesterday. The latter thought that he was going to die and showed his love for Chu Lingfeng. Although Chu Lingfeng was a fool, he knew who was sincere to him. He could not help but speak up for Hu Zhongtian. Let's go take a look." Luo Qingtong did not mind treating one more person. Moreover, Hu Fei was Yan Yang's brother. The group of people arrived at the east side courtyard where Hu Fei lived. For so many years, Hu Fei had been living here and was taken care of by someone. From time to time, Hu Zhongtian would come to see him. Luo Qingtong followed Hu Zhongtian into Hu Fei's room. As soon as she stepped in, Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows. In this room, she smelled a familiar scent that she had often dealt with in her previous life. Voodoo? Luo Qingtong looked at the person lying on the bed. The latter's face was pale, but his face was handsome. It could be seen that when Hu Fei was young, he was definitely a handsome young master. However, Luo Qingtong did not pay attention to this, but the faint scent of the voodoo worm on his body. In her previous life, Luo Qingtong had dealt with voodoo many times. The latter was different from ordinary poisons. It was usually used to bewitch people and control their minds. It was especially popular in the southwest. With Luo Qingtong's ability, there were naturally people who wanted to use voodoo to control her. Unfortunately for Luo Qingtong's pair of blood-red eyes, she was the nemesis of Gu techniques. The damage that the other party could inflict on her was not even comparable to a normal poison technique. After all, Luo Qingtong was poisoned and needed to be cured. As for the Gu technique, what was the use of a Gu technique that had been seen through? Luo Qingtong would never give those Gu worms a chance to enter her body. In his previous life, the Gu clan and the Gu god sect in the southwest region were completely defeated by Luo Qingtong. They had to take a detour when they saw her. Luo Qingtong smiled as she thought of this. Initially, he was wondering what kind of illness Hu Fei was suffering from and whether it would take a lot of effort to treat him. But now, it seemed that Hu Fei wasn't poisoned at all. Instead, he was poisoned by a Gu. Since that was the case, things were simple. Luo Qingtong fixed her eyes on Hu Fei. The blood-red light in her eyes flickered slightly. Through the pupil technique in her eyes, Luo Qingtong could clearly see that there was a tiny worm in Hu Fei's mind. That worm's body was as thin as a cicada's wing. It looked transparent. However, it was faintly emitting a golden light. There were 6 pairs of golden wings on its body, flapping gently. That Gu worm seemed to be in a deep sleep. There was almost no movement. Chapter 1274. Following the undulation of its breathing, a faintly discernible aura and soul energy was absorbed into its body. This Gu worm was absorbing Hu Fei's life energy and soul energy. No wonder the latter had been unconscious all this while. If this carried on, Hu Fei could only sleep until he died. All of his soul energy and life force were absorbed by that Gu worm to support its growth. Luo Qingtong looked at that goo worm and suddenly narrowed her eyes. This goo worm is a goo mother? Her voice was slightly surprised. In her previous life, Luo Qingtong had interacted with goo techniques and naturally knew that a goo mother was the most difficult to nurture. Among tens of millions of goo worms, there might not even be a goo mother. But if it was nurtured and carefully raised to raise its strength, it would definitely be a great weapon. Other things aside, a goo mother could breed goo worms. The child worms it bred would completely listen to its orders. That was to say, having a goo mother was equivalent to having a goo worm army. Not only that, a goo mother's status among the goo worms was like a queen. Under the circumstances where there was no other goo mother present, it could command all the goo worms. Even if they were not bred by it, it was still the same. Luo Qingtong did not expect that this goo worm in Hu Fei's body was actually a goo mother. But there were also differences among goo mothers. This goo mother in Hu Fei's body seemed to be a low-grade one. But even so, it was still very rare and precious. That person behind the curtain who planted the goo was really willing. But she probably also felt that it was impossible for anyone to see through the existence of this goo worm, right? Luo Qingtong's lips curled up slightly. Since the other party had sent such a huge gift, then she would not stand on ceremony and accept it. Luo Qingtong walked to Hu Fei's side and wanted to remove the goo worm for him. Just at this moment, buzz? A faintly discernible sound wave that ordinary people could not hear drifted in from the outside. Luo Qingtong's footsteps suddenly stopped. She saw the changes of that goo mother in Hu Fei's mind. A sharp sound wave that ordinary people couldn't hear rang out, and the goo mother seemed to have been awakened. It abruptly opened its eyes. Amidst the ear-piercing shriek, a huge phantom of golden wings appeared behind the goo queen. Then it took a deep breath and tried to suck away all of Hu Fei's life force and soul power. Its belly was bulging greatly. Seeing this scene, Luo Qingtong's expression suddenly froze. She abruptly took a step forward, raised her hand, and sent dozens of energy streams that were as thin as cow hair into Hu Fei's body. Under the control of Luo Qingtong's mind, this energy was even more effective than ordinary golden needles. The moment it entered Hu Fei's body, it immediately sealed all his vital acupoints, as well as all the hidden meridians that his life force and soul force had to pass through to enter his mind. At the same time, Luo Qingtong raised her hand and slapped Hu Fei's forehead. That place was the most vulnerable part of a person's skull. Once they were hit by someone, their brains would immediately burst open and they would die. When Hu Zhongtian saw this scene, he immediately became extremely anxious. Young master, don't. He did not know why Luo Qingtong suddenly attacked Hu Fei and subconsciously wanted to stop her, but he was blocked by Chu Lingfeng. Grandfather, don't worry. Master will not let anything happen to uncle. Chu Lingfeng also did not know why Luo Qingtong did this, but he believed in Luo Qingtong and naturally would not let Hu Zhongtian obstruct her actions. Get out of the way. Hu Zhongtian was extremely anxious, but he could not attack his grandson and instantly felt his insides burning. You're tuning in to the Sword Dance in the Vast Sky YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.